Hello, and welcome back to the Ask the Color Expert podcast. Today's special guest is colorist Danielle LeoGrande. She is coming to us from the Vanity Room Salon in New Jersey, where she works with her sister. It is such a special treat to have her here with us. We connected on Instagram, and my favorite part of her Instagram was how real it was and how true the looks were to the salon client. There was nothing over the top, but something caught my eye, and I want to talk about that with Danielle. So welcome, Danielle, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Like I said, I feel very honored. So thank you very much.
It's absolutely my pleasure. And I love the reason that I do both video and podcast is because I want people who listen to the podcast to see what you look like. That used to drive me crazy with other podcasts. I'd have a picture of what the person looked like, and it was nothing like what they look like. You are stunningly beautiful.
Oh,
I love
thank you very much.
Your cut is adorable.
That's my sister. She does a great job.
What's the secret? Is she a dry cutter, or does she do just
She's such a talented hair cutter. She really is. I don't say that because she's my sister. She's a really strong cutter. She does both wet and dry. So she does it both ways on me, and it always comes out perfect.
Beautiful. I love the beachy waves. I always get a little overzealous with the curling iron, and then I have to all day. This has to settle down, because if I don't curl it tight, it doesn't do anything at all.
Yeah.
I have super fine hair, but yours is like magazine.
Thank
perfect.
you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So your Instagram, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I saw your page, and I saw that I was already following you. You're on my feed. And there was a picture that caught my attention. It was a girl that had like sprinkles on her lips.
Oh my God. I love her. Yes. Oh my God. She's fabulous. She's like my muse. I love her for everything.
So that's something that I wanted to talk about, because Instagram frustrates the hell out of me. I do it always, every day, just to stay relevant and to stay present on the platform, but I don't grow. My number has stayed at just under 5,000 for literally 4 years. Like it just does not move, because I see hairstylists playing the follow for follow game, which I have no time for. I'm 54 years old. I'm like,
it's
either
exhausting.
Follow me or don't. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I think some stylists are seeing people that are influencers and have the intent of making something out of their Instagram behave differently than you and I, who are doing Instagram, just to show off our regular work. It's not for, to get picked up by a manufacturer or whatever the other people are looking for. And I think other people, when they're starting out, start to copy what those people are doing and start, I'll see on their page, they'll start doing little mini tutorials on why or how they're doing color. And I'm like, their page, they're trying to get a client. So why are they telling clients how they're doing that process? So now we have these, clients that are coming in armed with all this information they should not have, because they're getting it on their stylist Instagram.
And they don't understand it either. Yeah.
And not understanding it, they come in guns a-blazing and are bossing us around saying, I don't want lightener because 40 volumes, 2 diamond, they have like too much information.
Oh, yes. Yes. Too much.
So, I have a love-hate relationship with it. Part of me wants to just bag it all together and just say, never mind. But in this new reality, if you're not on Instagram, the minute, when I reached out to you to be on the podcast, you probably would have been like, she doesn't even have an Instagram. Who is this woman? You know what I mean? So it's almost like our business card now.
Yeah.
It's almost like a necessary thing that we have to do. So how do you feel about Instagram? Do you feel like it's a job, or do you like to do it?
I feel like, I guess similar to most people, it's a love-hate relationship. You want to, do that, what they say, you got to post something every day, you got to build. And I can't do it. I refuse to put up work that I don't love or pictures that I don't love. And it's not about, for me, it's not about how many people are following me. I just want to put out good stuff, good pictures, good work, things that I really care about or looks that I really enjoy. And if people like it, great. Not everybody will, and that's okay too. So I kind of stopped driving myself crazy at one point because it was just too much. And I said, you know what? Like when I post, but it's going to be something great and something that I love. Not just, oh, here's another wavy hair or here's another picture just like everybody else's. I'm going to do it just for me. And that's it. And you know, I don't have a ton of followers and I'm okay with that. You know, so long as I know that my work is authentic, my page is not like every single other page out there, then I feel good about that. And that's what's been important to me
Well,
as
it
far as
definitely
like the posting.
shows. Yeah,
Thank you.
it stood out to me because it wasn't that typical, the hands fanning out the back of the head, that, with the head tilted back, that everybody has.
Uh,
It wasn't the platinum card. Every single hair has to be white and ready to snap off the head.
yeah.
Like I was scrolling and I was like, oh, I wasn't bored at all. It was, everything was beautiful and believable and not edited, and just, if there was a stray hair, the stray hair was there. I
Yes.
could tell you didn't sit there with your finger on an editing app trying to
No.
make this stray
Yeah.
hair go away. You can make yourself crazy.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
love
Yeah.
that. But something
Thank
else
you.
that stood out on your feed was your opportunity that you got to spend the day shadowing Johnny Ramirez. And I stalked him for such a long time. For years, I kept saying, when are you going to do classes? Your work
Yeah.
is so different and so good. And it was so blended and so, well, for lack of a better word, lived in. He trademarked
Yeah.
the words lived in, because everybody was copying what he was doing. So my husband is a pretty good sport. I saw that he was finally doing, Johnny Ramirez was finally doing a class in LA, and it was like no notice. I mean, he literally put up the tickets, and I think the class was like 2 weeks later, thinking, of course, that most people from California would go. And I was in PA. So I said to my husband, I'm going. I would love for you to come with me. This is something I've been waiting years to do. And he's like, okay. So he found a friend that lives in California and he went and hung out with him. But when I got there, they had a red carpet out in the parking lot. There was hundreds of people standing out in the hot, hot sun. It was in the summer. It was really hot. And the buildup of, they knew how to make the excitement of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get in there. And then of course, when they opened the doors, everybody like rushed in there to try to get a good seat. I, of course, ended up all the way in the back of the room. It was a big room, and I ended up having to watch it on the video screen. So I was a little bit annoyed by that because it was not a cheap class.
No.
I'm trying to remember what the tuition was. I want to say it might have been $1,000. It was a lot. It was, if it
Yeah.
wasn't 1,000, it was just under. And of course, I had to fly to California. I had to get a hotel, meals, all that. So it was super expensive. And I kind of knew what he was doing because he showed enough on his little clips on Instagram with the teasing and all of that. But there was always a missing step to what he does that I was like, I need to know what that is. And at the live show, they took the model in the back for that step. So I still didn't get to see it done. And I thought, God, for all that money, like I want step by step by step. So I feel like he almost was like holding back that one little nugget because he doesn't want everyone copying. I don't blame him. But when you're teaching and you're saying, I'm going to show you this technique, you should really see the technique. So I know you shadowing him, because that was the next step. I was like, well, maybe I just need to shadow him. I did figure out everything, and I'm not going to say it because you
Yeah.
and I
Of
paid a lot of
course.
money for it
Yeah.
and we shouldn't share it. But
Yeah.
it is like a process,
A, a
and
very big one.
I ended up, he and Anko Tran, or Tran, I don't know how you pronounce it. They were doing a pop-up in New York, which is, I think, what you ended up shadowing him at.
Yes.
So I went for a haircut with and Johnny was right behind me. So I was like watching him like a hawk, trying to figure out what he was doing. And he would yell across the salon to the assistants, she needs to be bled. This one needs to be bled. And I was like, oh my goodness, there needs to be a better word for that. I don't know what he's talking about. I do now, but I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know what bleeding is, but he needs to come up with a fluffier word. So I think you'll agree with our real life in the salon. We sometimes speak in front of clients and don't realize how harsh our verbiage is. And it can be scary for the client. So
Yeah.
was
Well,
that kind of that experience for you? Were you like, oh my gosh, what are
um,
they saying in front of these clients?
you know what? Anytime when I shadowed him, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, he is definitely perfected that look. And it's stunning. It's a stunning look. Um, it's definitely you know, and I've tried to take back what I've learned. But you definitely need other people or somebody else helping you along the way. Um, he was, when I shadowed him, he was very, I asked a lot of questions. He was really great about answering them. He was very detailed with me, and I had a really great experience with that. And maybe because maybe the group that I was in was smaller when I went to shadow him, so there wasn't like a ton of people. Like, because when I went, I had also went to Dallas and took the master class that he had, and there was a lot of people there. So, you know, I understand what you mean. You bring somebody
That
in
was
the
more
back,
my
you finish
experience.
them out.
Yeah.
Yes. So I had that experience as well. But my first experience with him was when I shadowed him. That was first. And then I took the
Okay.
master class after. But that experience was incredible. And even though it was very hectic, I just tried to stay in tune with what either he was doing, just watch what he was doing, or whoever the assistant, because he had well, he has multiple assistants, but he has one very talented assistant. They all are, but Maggie, that was really on game. Like they just worked perfectly in tandem together. And so I watched her. I tried to figure out who I needed to watch that I would get the most out of. And those were the two that I watched the most. And it was quite an experience. It was fantastic for me. And he was so kind, so generous with just giving um, advice, formulas, information, how I could, you know, achieve a certain look. But I know timing wise, at that time, I believe it was like a 4 to 5 hour process. I haven't seen, I know it's now, I believe, he has like a shorter process, which is 2 hours. And I
Mm.
haven't had the chance to shadow on that. So I don't know how that breaks down um, behind the chair with him. But that's something that I definitely look forward to probably taking at some point in the future, because, I do like to learn, still keep learning. But I will say, a wonderful experience, as chaotic as any salon environment could be when you're doing that many guests and you're going from person to person. You really have to have a good system in play. And he did, even though there was a lot of people. Um, it was, like I said, it was a good experience. But yeah, you do want to, I think, um, you know, the clients, his guests that probably go to him, I would assume trust him. So if he's saying, I guess verbiage as far as bleeding and stuff like that, but yes, there could be a better word for it. But I think they trust him. They want a certain look, and they'll sit and they'll just have it done, don't care how long it takes. And they absolutely trust him. And I think that's an important thing. As any client, you want to trust your stylist or whoever's doing your hair.
I love Maggie's story. Do you remember her story that she was his
Yes.
housekeeper?
Yes.
That
Yes.
story, I would love to interview her to be on the podcast, but I think she's not super fluent yet in English. Like, was she able to communicate? I
Oh
think
yeah,
back when I saw him, she was like, oh, like trying to say like word, like how
yeah.
when you come to another country.
Yeah,
So it was a long time ago.
she was wonderful. I talked to her, asked her a bunch of questions. But yeah, uh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. I don't know, maybe because I was so, when you're so focused in on watching somebody's hands more so than all the information that they're giving you at the time, like you're looking at the exact technique. I guess I didn't pick up on that as much. But yeah, her story is just mind blowing, and she is extremely talented as well. So, I mean, he really trains his assistants and everybody so well. But I think, as anything, you have to really be wanting to put in that work and time to learn, and sacrifices are always made. You got to really want to work hard to achieve.
So when you
it-
came back, when I came back from his class, I was like, I have to figure out a way to make it faster because at the time he was like 6, 7 hours to do like a
yeah,
brunette to a money piece,
yeah,
blonde blonde. So I was like, there has to be a way to shorten this. And
yeah,
I did create, I took a piece of what he does, a piece of what Tracy Cunningham does, and a piece of what my friend Ian does. And I created a whole other technique that I now teach to other people. So there's always things, ways of doing things a little bit
yes, of
differently.
course.
But did you come back and start doing every step that he does and change the way that you book to your clients? Because you can't just plug that into your
Yeah,
normal everyday
no.
service.
When I came back and I wanted to try those looks, I would come in on my days off,
Me too.
because I needed to make sure that I wasn't distracted and that I had the time because I didn't want to rush it. I wanted to make sure, one, first, that I got it down pat and that I was doing it right. Um, and second, I didn't want to rush through it. I wanted to take my time to make sure that it came out the way that I wanted it to, and the way it was supposed to. And but I did, after practicing that, coming in on my days off, um, doing that look, a few times. Obviously, yes, you get behind the chair and somebody's like, oh, I want this look. And, we'll show you the pitch. And you're like, well, you're only booked in for, 2.5 hours or 3 hours, say, for a foil. So it's like you have to just figure out a way to say, this is what I can give you in the amount of time that I have. And be honest with them. Like, this is what I have time for, and this is where we'll get you. Maybe the following visit, we can get you to the next level. And that's basically what I've done as
It's
far when that
interesting that
look.
you said they're normally booked in for 2 hours or 3 hours. That is all recent as well. I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing hair, but an hour was like a luxury for me for when, I was coming up in the industry. It started with the first job I ever had as a colorist. They only gave us 15 minutes per client. And I look back at that and I think, how the heck did I get anything done?
It's
15 minutes
impossible.
now
Yeah.
for me is, hi, come on in. Let me get you a cup of coffee. Here's your robe. That's
Yes, it
15
changes.
minutes.
It definitely changes big
It's
time.
crazy.
And this is only my personal experience. As I've gotten older and the longer that I've been in this industry, I've gotten comfortable with setting my own timing because, in the beginning, when you start out, you have to have this person in and out of your chair at this time and be complete, whether it's a full foil, half a foil, retouch, haircut, whatever it is, in a certain amount of time. So you were just blowing through it, trying to get your book, everybody done in those 15-minute slots, 30-minute slots, hour slots, however it was that they wanted you to do it. But as I got older and, things change, you grow, you get better. You say, hey, you know what? Like, listen, in order for me to do this, this is the time that I need. And this is the way I do it. Um, for certain looks, obviously. I definitely take more time than the average person as far as foiling and stuff like that. So I will take that chunk of time and not force myself into, a 30-minute slot or 45-minute slot and be like, oh, okay, let me get this done and get the next person done, and that's how I've worked. That's kind of how I worked it. But it was gradually as you get older and you become a little bit more confident and know what you're doing and know the direction that you want to go in or the looks that you want to achieve, you need a certain amount of time without feeling that kind of pressure of the next guest coming in. So I kind of just started taking my time as I've gotten older.
And I think that is really the trend today. It's so different. If we've learned
Yeah.
anything from the younger generation, they don't want set hours. They don't want to have to sit there when they don't have a client. They have shook the industry and changed
Yeah.
things.
Big time.
Some of it good, some of it not so good as far
Yes.
as, in my opinion, as far as like dress code and professionalism. I think you have to look the part. And if you want that upscale client, you need to be,
Yeah.
more available and do have a schedule. So
Yes.
it's just, there's been so much change in the industry, but the biggest positive I think is taking the proper time. We never had the proper time. I almost want to call every client that I did in my first 5 years behind the chair and say, come give me another chance. I'm so
Yes.
different
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's so true. It's very true that, um, it's nice to be able to have that time. It really is. And yes, it would be nice to call them and be like, I'm sorry I rushed you and, you know, got those 100 foils in about, 25 minutes, but, you learn, we grow. But I do, as far as, yes, the industry has changed and like you said, in both good and bad ways. But I do, and this is just only my core belief that, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work, you got to put in the time, and you really just have to stay consistent in education, be open to learning new things from everybody, whether they're just starting out or whether they've been in the industry for 50 years. I think those things are still really important.
I agree. And what advice would you give your younger self as far as getting to the point that you are now faster? Like my love and passion right now is helping younger people skip the things that were time wasters and time suckers for me that I didn't know were at the time, just taking anybody that came my way and sat in my chair, from kids cuts to waxing to updos to makeup. Now I'm more laser focused on color. Is there something you would tell your younger self if you knew what you were going to be today back then?
Um, gosh, probably don't worry and don't try to be so perfect all the time. Don't be so worried about what everybody else thinks. Just do your own thing. Um, there's no such thing as perfection. Do your own thing, be original, and just don't put so much pressure on yourself. Just, it'll come. I think, a lot of people, at least when I started out, it was a lot of pressure. Like, you want to be great. You want to be great. That's all you focus on. It's like, how can I be like this person and like that person? Just don't compare yourself. Just be your own person and just be open to growing. That's it.
Do you remember the moment that you felt like everything just suddenly clicked? In those
Um,
beginning years when you just feel so anxious. And I just had two young girls come and do a hands-on with me that work in my salon back in PA. I'm in Florida, and they're just out of school in June. So I forgot how little you really do know when you come out of
yeah,
school. There was a lot of assuming on my end, and I
yeah.
would start talking as if they understood, and I got these blank looks. And then day two, I would say something that I said day one, and they kind of looked blank again. And I said, do you remember yesterday when? And they're like, no. And I said, oh boy, is this 51st dates? Like, do I have to repeat all those things
Yeah.
again? And then I said, did you write any of it down? No. So,
Oh,
like, teaching for me, it's so hard to remember not knowing. Like, once your brain has it all figured out and you've done it, I've done this for 35 years. So for
yeah.
me, I'm almost like, that's like breathing, but it wasn't always like that. And I remember exactly when it clicked for me. Do you have a moment like that, that it was like all of this? I was like grinning from ear to ear and talking a taxi driver's ear off on the way home from a show when it all clicked in hair color, when I finally understood hair color and format. It just like, boom, it was like an explosion in my brain that it all came together. And I was like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, that's great. He was such a good sport, but I just wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I get it. I finally get it.
Clicked as far as what? When I
The
started.
confidence, like to stand behind the chair and know that any client sitting in your chair, you've got this. You didn't need to talk to a
Um,
person next to you. You didn't need to go to a cheat sheet or go online and ask somebody their opinion.
I think, God, I think that would probably be when I just decided to not worry about, how can I say this? When I stopped worrying that you know, what everybody else was doing, you know, when I just was like, you know what, I don't care that this person's doing that or that person's doing that, or they're doing it that way. Like, I just let go. I let everything go and just said, just do it your own way. And then that's when I feel like I just came into my own, when I stopped worrying about everything else and everybody else. And just was like, you know what, I'm going to do it my way. And that's it. And I think that's when I realized that I had the confidence. I was just afraid,
Mhm.
to, you know,
Trust yourself.
yes, trust myself, like step into it. I was afraid. And yeah. And then once I did, then that was it. And then whoever sat in my chair, it was like, okay, I got this, regardless of what it is. Don't get me wrong. We always have things where we're like, oh, we got to think a little bit harder on how we're going to do something. Because there's always challenges and things that come up. But that's, I would say, yeah, when I really just let go and was like, all right, I know how I'm going to do this, whatever they want, they sit down, I got it done.
I love that because my members, I have a hair color secrets insider membership, and it's a year-long journey. And I see the progress in the tentativeness in the beginning of, well, I don't really trust this because I don't really know you, and this is different than what I know. And then there's that middle part where they start to test some of the things that I teach them, but almost every single one will get some pushback from a coworker. And it's always a coworker that's just enough further along than them for them to doubt what they're doing. And we'll be in the group, we have a private Facebook group, and someone will show a picture and say, this is my client, what do you think? And I'll say, step one, do this, step two, do this, and we'll go back and forth and we'll come up with a plan. And then I'll see the after, and the after is not what she wanted. And I'll say, what do you think went wrong? And then I feel bad because I'm like, did I give bad advice? I told her every step of
Yeah.
the way. And she'll say, well, I didn't do that because my coworker was saying not to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you're going to have to get to the point where you trust yourself more than you trust your coworker. And you're never going to get to that next level trusting your coworker. Is your coworker driving your dream car, living in your dream house, making six figures? Probably not. So
Right.
if you stick with me and you stay on this journey, I can get you to those places because you're going to learn to trust yourself. And you don't need some stranger on Facebook to tell you what to do, because you
Yeah.
really understand the fundamentals that most of us, I'm sure you'll agree, that beauty school did not get us properly prepared
No,
for
never
all things
does.
color. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think some people think that's the end of the road. I wish that every state had continued education
Yeah.
requirements. Mine
Yeah.
does
That would,
now. It never did in PA. Does New Jersey have them?
no, not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
So you can be
Um,
licensed in 1970 and be doing hair in 2021 and never have learned another thing. It's crazy.
no, no, but I think that's part of the reason why I consistently do education on my own, just because one, I feel like, for me, I feel like when you stop learning, um, and you stop wanting to absorb any information or be open to anything, it gets stagnant, repetitive. And I don't, I don't ever want to feel that way. So I always just continue to just do my own education. Doesn't have to be color, could be anything, just to open my mind to different things. And I feel like that's a really important thing. I feel like if you don't keep learning, um, it just, you get into that groove and it's just the same thing over and over and over. And I get excited, you take a class, you learn something new, you're like, let me try this. It doesn't matter how old you are. I've been just, as I'm sure you're in this industry for so long, that it's like after a while, it's like, if, people think, I don't need to take classes, I've been doing this forever. But I feel like those are important, just, keep learning, learn something new from somebody different, something that maybe you're not interested in, but you could take back and make your own in some way.
Take a piece of it. Yeah, I absolutely
Yeah.
agree. I tease my husband all the time because we're going to be married 30 years in October. And I always say, I just miss that first kiss, stomach
Yeah.
drop, roller coaster feeling.
Yes.
And that's how I equate the education in our industry that you're missing that first kiss, stomach, belly, butterfly. When you come
Yeah.
out of a good class, I don't
Oh,
care how long you've been doing it, you're vibrating, your body's like shaking. You're so
yes.
excited and you
Yes.
cannot wait to get back to the salon. And I feel for people who've never had that feeling.
Oh,
It's like, how can you live without feeling that alive in what you do? It becomes
that,
such Groundhog Day. Oh, you pick up the
yeah.
hair, do the same
Yeah.
section, same foiling pattern, same
Yes.
thing. It's
And
like,
people pick up on that,
yeah,
your clients eventually pick up on that, and they, you know, so it's like, you're only hurting yourself if you don't. And that, like that's like the perfect analogy, like that first kiss, that feeling like you leave and you're just shaking with excitement because you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Um, and like I recently just took a class a couple weeks ago, and I came out of there just exactly like that kiss, like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, your adrenaline's going, you feel high, you're just like, this is the
mm-hmm.
best. um and I feel like, there's no better feeling than that. And then going back into the salon, and then your clients ask you about it, or then you're telling your clients about it because you're so excited, and then they're excited,
They get excited. Yeah.
yeah. So it's I feel like that's important. The continuing education is important.
And as far as pricing too, a lot of people have fear around pricing, and some of them should, because they haven't been to a class since 1978. So you should
Yeah.
be afraid to raise your prices because you're not earning the right to if you're not up leveling your
Yes.
education. So when we share our experience and we're so excited coming back from an event, our clients almost expect our prices to go up because they know we're on the cutting edge of what's going on and that they're going to get the best
Yeah.
service and look their absolute best.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story about the kiss with my husband. So, 30 years is a long time to be with the same man. So we were having that conversation
Congratulations.
about the kiss. And I said, I was going to Paris. I closed my salon and I took my whole staff to Paris. We were there for 10 days. It was wonderful. We went to a big hair show there, the Mondial Coiffure. And you think of Paris as being, the city of romance, the city of love. And I pictured every guy to be so handsome and, different than an American guy. And I said to my husband, dead serious. We had 2 kids at the time. And I'm like, if I meet a guy that's like really handsome and really charming, can I just like make out with him for 5 minutes and not be cheating? Like, can that not count? And he was like, I mean, I guess it's not, it's just a kiss, I guess. Well, I was so excited. We get on the trip. I'm like this, looking, who can I
Looking
kiss? Who can I
everywhere.
kiss? Who
Yeah.
can I kiss? I haven't kissed anybody different. And at the time, it was probably 20 years. And do you think I could find a single man in that entire country I wanted to kiss? Like not
No.
one. No moment came
That's
up.
awful.
So I come home and
Oh,
of course he asked me, did you? I said, no, I didn't. So then we go to Italy for another show. Well, now it's like, I want to kiss everyone that's walking near me. And this guy was like, beautiful, gorgeous. We're dancing at this formal party and I'm having a great time. And I'm texting my husband, of course, now I have a couple drinks in me. I'm forgetting about the time difference. So I'm saying, is that deal still on? Can I cash in on that kiss? And he's not answering me because he's asleep.
yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I better not, I think I'm pushing it. So I go to bed. I wake up in the morning. There had been an earthquake overnight. I slept through the earthquake.
Oh
So
my
my
gosh.
phone was like blown up. Every family member, are you okay? Because it was all over the news and everything. And I talked to my husband. I'm like, I'm okay. And he's like, well, did you do it? I go, no, you didn't answer me. He's like, I was asleep.
You're like, damn it.
So
Damn it.
my two opportunities, I totally blew. I haven't kissed
Oh,
anybody, but
oh,
he's a good sport. I mean, when you're
oh,
together that long, it's like, really,
yeah.
is that really
It's
going to
like,
be a deal breaker? So
no,
now I have it in
no.
my back pocket for
Y-
emergency use only. It's like one of those emergency cigarettes for people
yeah.
who quit smoking.
Like, can't wait. Like, I need it. Oh,
Just
that's
knowing that it's there
hilarious.
keeps me married, whatever it takes, right?
That's hilarious. That's the best. Oh my God. That's really funny. I love that.
Which I think, it's funny. I'm totally off track as I always get
No,
because I'm
that's
so
okay. I'm
ADD.
enjoying this. This
But
is
that
great.
is an important part of my marriage is the communication with my husband and how I'm feeling and what I'm feeling. For me kissing a stranger in another country and having it be shisty and a secret and deceptive, that's where marriages break down because
Yeah.
it's the trust. So same thing in the salon. I think a lot of people bail on a salon because there wasn't communication with the owner. For
Yeah.
you, yours is a whole other level with family. I can imagine how
Yeah.
that gets blurred sometimes.
You know what?
Um,
I have to say, you know, when you're in this industry a long time, you see a lot of different salons or a lot of different places, and it's like, um, excuse my language, but like a shit show.
mhm.
It's like everybody, it's just you're afraid to ask, or who's this or who's that. I have to say, like, I have never had such an incredible work experience with a boss as I do with my sister.
That's amazing.
I never forget, one, that she is still my boss first and foremost. And I will always respect that. And I will always ask, just like any other stylist in here. And we work in perfect tandem together. And I know a lot of families may have a difficult time, working together. We grew up with, our families and businesses together, different ones. And when people don't see eye to eye or don't work well together, especially when it comes to families, it's very hard. But I mean, I have to say I'm super fortunate. Half the time people don't even know that we're related. Um,
Now, did you
because
start out with her or had you had experience elsewhere and you were like the perfect employee to begin with?
I started out elsewhere. She was somewhere else as well. And then she opened up this spot, and I knew that this was going to happen, and I could not wait. Because where I was at was very stagnant. They weren't big on education. They weren't big on this. And, and I just, like, I wasn't growing, and I knew that I wasn't growing, and I had wanted to leave, but I knew the other salons in the area. I didn't want to be at those ones.
Right.
So you know, this was new, and I was so excited because I knew it was going to be different, and I knew it was going to be brilliant. And as soon as this opened, it was like finally, like
Everything you
this
ever
is what I've
wanted.
been this is the type of place I've been looking for. Um, and I'm grateful, because sometimes family members won't let other family members work with them because of issues. And I'm so grateful that she wanted me to be a part and let me come in. Because you always have challenges. You never know, and you're afraid, and I've never felt more at home and more comfortable in a place. And not only that, but like anytime, like we bounce questions off each other. We ask each other, like, I'll ask her, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? I want to try this, or I want to try that. And she'd be like, well, try it this way, and we go back and forth and we talk to each other. Um, and we continue to learn from each other. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you can have that with your boss, but it's also, your sibling, a family member. But we have a really great work relationship. And I'm very, like I said, very fortunate for that. Definitely.
That's amazing. And that says a lot. And I think it's smart that you didn't go into it together. I think it would be a whole
Yeah.
different dynamic if you had been
Yes.
partners. Partnerships are brutally hard.
Yes.
I always, when people ask my advice about partnerships, I'm like, if you need to go into business with a partner, don't go into business.
Yeah. Do it
Just
alone.
do it
Yeah.
alone or don't do it at all.
Yeah,
That's just been
exactly.
my experience, but
But
everybody's
that's the
different.
truth. I feel like that's the truth. It's very difficult to have a business, I think, with a partner or somebody that you're a partner in general, um, or somebody that you're close with, because there's always issues that arise. It's very hard to run a business. It is brutal. So, but yeah, so, I love her dearly. She's the best. And she's an incredible boss. Her husband too. um, Really just good, solid people that want the best, support you in every single way possible. Every stylist, they support and encourage endlessly. And that's a really great feeling to have. You lay your head on the pillow at night. You're not worried about asking your boss about something. You're not like, have those knots in your stomach. You're just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go in and maybe ask this or maybe ask that. And I'm curious about that. And it's fabulous. really
Because when you hold
fabulous.
it in and you don't bring it to the person it needs to go to, that's when all the drama starts, because
Yeah,
you start bitching to a coworker and there's all this background bitching. But
yeah,
the leader, if the leader doesn't know what the issues are, they can't make them change. It's so
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah,
People will just leave and be so dramatic, where all they had to do is say, I don't want to work Thursday anymore, or whatever, whatever the beef
yeah,
is, just
yeah,
say it,
yeah, yeah.
and
Just
everybody's happier.
to have that open dialogue, an honest, open dialogue all the time. So, and that's
Absolutely.
important. That's important anywhere you are. So yeah,
Amazing. Well, you
definitely.
are amazing. I loved
Thank
chatting with
you.
you. I loved meeting you.
Thank you.
How can people find you and follow your Instagram?
They can follow me at Color by Danielle. And yeah, that's where they can find me,
Do you have
and
any
I'll be there.
crazy underscores or any of that stuff you
Oh,
need me
yes,
to
yes.
have?
Color, sorry about that. Color_by_Danielle.
Awesome.
That's my IG handle. So, but thank you. This has been so lovely. It's been such a pleasure to meet you, and I cannot thank you enough for inviting me on. And I look forward to, chatting again.
Awesome. You too. It was my pleasure having you. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
so
everybody
much.
for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.